Welcome to my spoiler review for Black Adam. If you have not seen the film, check out my non-spoiler review here on the channel. I put it up a couple days ago. This is for those who have seen the movie. I want to go into more detail about what I thought about it with spoilers from the plot. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. You've been warned. So I mentioned in my non-spoiler review that the movie's very predictable, and I knew it was. And it was predictable. Not necessarily something that could ruin a movie, but there were a lot of plot points that I thought were kind of predictable. That being, of course, the fate, no pun intended, of Dr. Fate. You know, early in the movie, he has that vision of Hawkman dying. I just knew, I knew it was going to be something different. And so when he locked Hawkman away to go fight Sabak by himself, I just knew it was coming. Now, that being said, Dr. Fate's powers in the movies looked awesome. I feel like they could have done more with Cyclone and with Atom Smasher, but I'm sure they have plans for those characters in the future. But really, Dr. Fate, played by Pierce Brosnan, was a real treat to watch. And they really made Hawkman kind of a cool little, character. The Rock played Black Adam very stoic, very much a fish out of water story. He doesn't understand how Earth is now. Again, that's stuff that we've seen before. The movie did do a lot of tropes, a lot of superhero tropes, but to me that doesn't necessarily make it a bad movie at all, because I had fun watching it, and ultimately if it's fun, it can't be that bad, right? Sometimes something that's fun can be terrible in some ways when connected to other things, but I didn't feel like anything in this movie insulted my intelligence that much. It really didn't. I enjoyed it. Now, I will say this, the kid in the movie, the son of the main human character or whatever, non-powered character, he got a little bit annoying, to be honest. And I mentioned in my non-spoiler that when they went to go attack, when they all teamed up, right, to go confront who would become Sabak, in his human form, the member of the family, Ishmael, or whatever, friend of the family, it was weird because there was some wonky editing where Black Adam is there kicking ass, and then he just cut, and then the entire JSA is there. I feel like there might have been a missing scene of the JSA showing up, but it was really jarring. You're watching it, and it just goes to the next part without giving us a transition of how the JSA got there. That was weird to me, That was really, really strange, and it is bad editing. That's without question, that's something that could have been fixed. But maybe they chose to chop it up. Who knows? Also, the villain was quite one-dimensional. Sabak is a pretty powerful enemy, but we didn't know anything about Ismail except that he was a traitor. We don't even know their backstory. Yes, that was weak writing, but what made the movie fun, again, I had fun watching it, but there are issues, is that it's just a blast visually. It really is. It is a popcorn movie. It is a McHollywood movie, but it did everything well. The fight was good. There was nothing that was really boring. A lot of it was sort of, 2 hours of stimulation. And some movies can be like that. Some classic Arnold and Chuck Norris movies are like that, and we love them for it. Same thing with Steven Seagal. It's okay. There was nothing in this film that just made me puke as far as anything that was a political message. I didn't really see that, except for there may have been a slight political message about how the United States, they didn't really say this in the film, but it's almost hinted that Cockdad is or Kondak, Kondak is a modern day Israel or Palestine or Afghanistan, and there's criticism about the U.S. and what they did in these countries and what they've done. When it comes to the imperialism of the U.S., I kind of see that as being somewhat of a message, but it wasn't so overt and it wasn't so on the nose that it took away from the film. You know what I mean? The Rock is super charismatic no matter what he does, even though he's playing a somewhat confused and quiet character. He still did a good job. And man, this movie had some crazy Mortal Kombat-Esque fatalities, The way that he ripped up Sabak in half at the end, I wasn't expecting that. He almost got this insane, crazy power to be able to do that. And of course, the mid-credit scene, which is Amanda Waller, who was a nice treat seeing her here, introducing, people from outside the planet to defend it. It's Superman, it's Henry Cavill back in the red and blue. We haven't seen him since the Snyder Cut, and really we haven't seen him since Shazam, because the Snyder Cut was, of course, archival footage. That was cool. But it does make you wonder, like, where was Superman during the Sabak thing? I guess maybe it doesn't really matter because it is obviously not his story, and Superman can't be everywhere at once. So maybe he was busy doing something else. That was fine. They kind of did this thing where they teased that it's like there was maybe a little bit of a romance between Cyclone and Atom Smasher, but honestly, I didn't care. Like, I did not care about that. I think that if they developed that for a sequel, maybe. But here, it was almost like they are going to push it forward in a sequel, and this was just like the foundation for it. And if that's the case, I'm okay with it. I didn't really care that much about those two characters. But they did make me care about the human characters. Obviously, like I said, the kid was annoying, but I did care about it. I also, again, even though it was predictable, the twist where it was not The Rock who was the actual original, hero. It was actually his son. Like, that was pretty cool. Again, I had a feeling that there was more to that than met the eye. And I had a feeling that the data that they have, about the hero might differ depending on who you ask. And I thought they were going to explore that. But the movie kind of explains that, Black Adam is not the hero here. It's really his son, and it goes through sort of his pain and suffering and reveals, like, what really happened. And that was cool. Like, I really enjoyed that. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I knew it was going to be something, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite like that. And it was a bit of a trope, but I think it actually worked out because most of the time in these movies, you see, like, a superhero mourning his parents being killed. Specifically, like Batman or Superman. They lost their parents along the way. Whereas somebody like Black Adam lost a son. And I don't have any kids, but I have heard from people that losing a child is like just as bad, if not worse, than losing a parent. So I can only imagine the trauma that, that Teth Adam had. You know what I mean? I do wonder if it was a good idea to do this so soon. Like, to do Black Adam this soon, but it was still, I think it worked. Honestly, Viola Davis, like I mentioned her, and of course I mentioned the Wizard of Shazam from Shazam. He was there, but I don't know. I feel like there was little Easter eggs there, like like the original Atom Smasher. Al Pratt, he had a small cameo. Henry Winkler played him. That was cool. It did tie in some DCEU stuff, but again, I wonder where they're going with it because there's been all kinds of rumors. Now they're talking about how Cavill might come back for Man of Steel 2, and it won't have Snyder involved, and it's a mess. But not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I had more fun with this than I did with Doctor Strange and with Thor. And those two movies I think got kind of a bad rap this year, specifically Thor, and there is a good reason why. Doctor Strange I think might have been just a big letdown, but I did like it. I like what they did in that movie. But this film, I just had much more of a blast with it. Maybe I was in a different headspace. It could be me, but the critics have been shitting on it, but the fans have really liked it. So, I don't know, man. I'm going to go with the fans on this one. Sometimes the fans like trash, but, for years now, we've had this sort of back and forth between critics and fans. And, if you make a movie for the fans and it makes you money, ultimately that should be the goal, to make as much money as you can. You want to make a good film that has good artistry, but you want to make money too. And, I feel like this movie was more leaning towards the money aspect of things, but it didn't totally betray itself. Like Dark Phoenix, for example. This movie was consistent at least. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. Thanks for watching. Take care.